Hello and welcome back to the Dicebreaker podcast. We've had a week's break. We're back here, not in the studio, in our respective homes. We hope you're staying safe and looking after yourself. I am Matt Jarvis. I'm the editor-in-chief of Dicebreaker, and this week I'm joined by two of the team. I'm joined by Johnny Chiodini, head of video for Dicebreaker. Hello,
honk,
Johnny.
honk.
How are you today?
Hello, like and subscribe.
Johnny Chiodini, Dicebreaker Goose.
It me.
I hope you're secretly not a goose, because geese are notoriously not nice.
Secretly not a goose? What does this imply about Johnny?
That I'm openly
currently?
a goose? Or that...
What I mean to say is, I hope you're not a goose going around in like a person's body.
You hope that I am not secretly a goose.
Yeah.
Language is fascinating, isn't it? Don't worry, I am human. It conveys many advantages, like being able to push the keys to make videos. Very hard to do if you're feathered.
And making wild accusations about people's status as geese or otherwise is Alex Meehan, staff writer for Dicebreaker. Hello, Alex. How are you?
I am okay. I'm not a goose. Last time I checked.
That's a very suspicious thing to just bring up like that.
Oh, hi.
I'm
Alex Meehan and I'm not a goose. Why? Who's asking?
Is that how you enter every conversation?
I'll have a business card that says Alex Meehan, not a goose.
Not a goose.
I think we should make a social deduction game called Not a Goose.
Okay.
Don't steal. Do not steal. You steal
like
my
you
idea, I know. I'll come after you.
Jumping back to business cards, do you not think it would be fun to have business cards and you print a load and they all say duck, apart from one that says goose, and whoever you hand it to has to chase you and pat you on the head. And then they take the card and they become the goose.
You sound like one of those sort of business people who are like, we're not a part of a company, we're part of a family, so we have fun, and we're so quirky.
That's a horrible thing to say to someone.
Wow.
That's awful.
I've got this great opportunity for you. If you love duck and you love geese, you're going to love duck geese business cards.
Duggies.
Duckies. The thing is, I only say that because I have some experience in having to listen to people like that. And I just had to, at the time, sit there and be quiet, and inside my head the whole time just think, why am I here? This is just so ridiculous and pointless, and sigh. But now I can accuse you of doing it.
You're not here to sit and be quiet in this particular podcast, because of course we are here to talk about this week's bevy of games, both tabletop RPGs and board games, and probably some other stuff, because it turns out, well, I can't really talk about what I'm playing, and I think, well, we'll get onto it. So actually, let's kick off with Johnny. Let's start with you. What have you been playing this week?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got 3 things. 2 of them are incredibly predictable, because one of them is Deadlands, and the other one is Warhammer, and again just painting a bunch of stuff and getting ready to sort of return to the tabletop, because the place I go to play Warhammer is slowly opening up again with sort of distance tables and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sort of licking my lips in anticipation of losing yet again at Warhammer. But I've been playing recently a game that a friend of mine invented, actually, because sort of obviously the only social sort of gatherings we can have at the minute are socially distanced. Let's sit in a park and have a can of beer sort of things. My friend, he's called Paddy Jervis. He's the guitarist for a band called Johnny and the Baptists, who are a tremendous sort of comedy duo. He invented a game called Softs in the Loft. So the premise of Softs in the Loft is, obviously, you remember 2 weeks ago it was your cousin's wedding, big wedding, lovely time. At the end, lots of soft drinks left over. So Dad thought, take those home, stick them up in the loft, and now Dad's up in the loft, and you all fancy a little soft drink. So basically, the person who's running Softs in the Loft has gone to a shop and bought an assortment of soft drinks. And then everyone has to guess which soft drinks are in the bag, or in the loft, by saying, Daddy like, and then naming a soft drink. And if you get it right, you get the soft drink. So it's like, Daddy like Irn Bru? Not in the loft, no. it's surprisingly riveting, and it's just really good fun to be like, Daddy likes Fanta, Daddy like Fanta, but gonna need you to be more specific. Fanta orange, not in the loft. So like it's genuinely,
it's gotta be fruit twist, right? I mean,
that, you know what, I ran my first game of Sauce in the Loft on the weekend, and Fanta fruit twist was absolutely in there.
yeah.
It is genuinely, it's taken my friendship group by storm. I have heard of at least 5 different games of it played, and there have even been breakout ones called like Bix in the Sticks, where you're all on the outskirts of town and you're hungry but all you've got is biscuits, and at Crisps on the List, which I do not think is a good title, but I like Crisps, so I'm going to let it slide. So so yeah, check out Johnny the Baptist, and if you do end up playing Sauce in the Loft yourself, let him know, because I think we're mere days away from him licensing this, to be honest, and going to Big Potato Games and being like, here, Big Potato, this sounds like this is a rhyming game that is sociable. So,
okay, so this is what I've had a lot of thoughts going through my head, which isn't uncommon. I feel like some of them I need to shift through them to basically figure out what's worth mentioning and what's worth not mentioning, but I'm imagining that in this game, if they do get the right answer, so if they say something that is in the bag, then the person who is the, quote, daddy in this situation has to open the can and drink the entire thing every single time.
Christ, no.
Yes.
You buy like 5 cans. That's horrible.
Yeah.
And no one gets a treat for guessing.
That's your prize. You get to watch the person.
That's rubbish. Like, if you correctly guessed that in the loft there was a can of Corsten Press rhubarb, and you didn't get to drink it, that's a horrible thing to do to someone.
The main thing I'm thinking is that right now, you'd have to do it unless it's like someone in your household. If you were to do it like socially distanced online, that's how you would do it. You would just have the person with the bag drink the drink.
I mean, what you've done here, Meehan, is you've taken a really good game and made it horrible for everyone. Like it's a real chore.
Not horrible if that bag is full of really lukewarm Panda Pops.
I mean,
it's like, please, no, I don't want another bubblegum Panda Pop.
Yeah,
because that's
you know
the kind of
Daddy
you know the rules.
Bubblegum Panda Pop. Oh, it is in the loft.
That's the kind of thing that you would have in the loft, to be honest. Because after your kid's birthday party or whatever at the swimming pool, then they might not drink all the Panda Pops, and you stick them up in the loft.
I mean, again, the law quite clearly states that Sauce in the Loft takes place 2 weeks after your cousin's wedding. So maybe your cousin had Panda Pops there, but all I'm saying is they were at a wedding, now they're in the loft, and you get them handed down to you if you guess. So no one has to chug upwards of 5 litres of fizzy drink.
How about as a side game to this, tins in the bin, but you don't want to win because it's all out of date.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah, I'm into it.
Here's some mushed peas from 1974.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have definitely been in my granddad's house.
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah.
We cleared it out. For sure.
We're planning to do Booze in the Shoe, or Booze in the Shoes, where
good.
you just get a load of miniatures and stuff them in a Wellington. But obviously that's kind of a more expensive variant, so no one stepped up to the plate on that one.
Oh, when you said miniatures, I got really confused for a second then. I was like, how is this related to alcohol? Are they like all alcoholic characters or something?
Yeah. Daddy like Ultramarine Rhino. Daddy do like Ultramarine Rhino. Yeah.
Every time you say that phrase, I just feel a bit weird.
It sounds
but
weirder
I think
than it
that's
actually is
my
in practice.
problem.
It's a weirdly wholesome game where everyone's just like, Daddy like Old Jamaica ginger beer? Daddy not like Old Jamaica ginger beer. Oh, okay, alright, fine. You can just carry on.
I think I would just hope that there would be a Dr. Pepper every time. Because, I don't drink a lot of soft drinks. And this, by the way, other soft drinks are available. But, a DP, as I like to call it, really hits the spot.
I cannot believe you pulled me up on having to say Daddy like, but you're perfectly happy to start saying DP.
It's just a friendly way of saying Dr.
Of
Pepper.
referring to a soft drink.
It's a very familiar. Yeah. Okay. Well. Yeah.
Or a Dr. Pip, as he's sometimes known.
Yep. Or if you
I
get
just call him the doc.
the doc.
I'm off to visit the doc.
If you buy the
That's you going up
a
to
Dr.
your
Pepper by
loft.
myself in the cupboard.
the
Matt
soda
Jarvis,
stream.
that's you. I imagine that's you going up to your loft to drink.
Yeah.
The soda
Just
stream knockoff
quietly
version of
whispering
Dr.
to
Pepper is
myself.
called Dr. Pete.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
there we
Dr.
go.
Pete. Also Dr. Pip
Yeah.
is another one.
Please tell me what you've been playing, Meehan. I don't think I can handle this scrutiny anymore.
Didn't spend 5 years in medical school to be called Mr. Pepper, please.
I guess I'll move on. It hurts me a lot because I would genuinely spend the next 2 hours talking about this.
Yeah.
But for the sake of I guess tabletop, I'll
For the
move on.
sake of tabletop.
Yeah, I have been playing a bit of Code Names Online. Since our shenanigans last Thursday, I suppose it would have been Thursday before that by the time this podcast comes out. Time is weird.
It's still the same Thursday.
Yeah.
Oh, I suppose there's technically a Thursday just before this podcast goes out.
Exactly.
But
Come
either
on.
way, it's available on the YouTube channel.
Yes.
For
Yeah.
those who missed it live.
Yeah, you should watch it if you did not watch the stream. But we gave it a go last weekend. What?
I don't know. I think it was last week's episode where Loli's used the phrase "we give it a go" to refer to the Dicebreaker.
Yeah.
Team as a
Dicebreaker.
whole.
We give it a
We
go.
give it a go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm down with that. It's optimistic while not promising too much. Basically, my life's motto, really. You know.
Oh.
Yeah. My friends and I played some with a few beverages, and I'm not talking about
Softs in the loft.
No. And of course that meant things got a little bit rowdy. To the point where there's a really great moment where one of the clues that my friend and I had to guess was bugle, which is excellent, an excellent clue. And my friend initially said, she said Jameson. And we were like, one of the other clues on the board was spider.
J. Jonah Jameson.
And we were like, J. Jonah Jameson, he wants to get the Spider-Man. You know, and that's all he wants. He wants pictures of that Spider-Man. And so we were like, it's got to be Spider. So we picked Spider, and they were like, no. And I was like, why would you not pick Spider?
That is top tier connection work. I
No,
would say that's
it was
very
really
strong.
good. No, it was really strong. If Spider hadn't been there, we would have gone for Bugle. But we just saw Spider straight away. And of course, the first thing you think of is get me those pictures of that Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, yeah. Those are the best moments in Codenames. So you're like, this clue is brilliant. Oh no, there's a word I didn't see over there that's completely derailed the whole thing.
I think they did see it, but they were just like, I can't think of anything else for Bugle. And then I think the next clue they gave us was Daily, and we were like, there you go. It's got to be Bugle. We still won, though. The other team were quite a bit behind. But we actually had to migrate onto Tabletop Simulator because Codenames Online was not having a fun time that evening.
Was it not?
It just kept booting us out all the time.
Dang. That happened
yeah.
to me at one point when we were streaming it.
I mean, that happened to you once. This would happen to us every 2 minutes or so.
That is inconvenient.
Yeah, so eventually we were like, is there a mod for this? Yes, there is.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a mod.
Yeah, well, most of the time there is. It depends on whether the mod's any good as well. But this one was good. But yeah, we played some Codenames. And I've also been playing, and I'm sorry for the podcast listeners for this.
Closed captioning, Meehan is holding up a copy of Fort by Leader Games.
But I can finally really talk about it now because the embargo date is over. Oh, Johnny's sad.
I don't have it yet and I need it.
I know you need it. It's really nice. I just like looking at the things in here. They're just really nice. Like, look at this stuff. They probably can't see it, but look at this stuff.
Quality podcast.
Yeah, Meehan is holding up a board from Fort now. It's a player board.
I say I caved and I ended up pre-ordering Fort.
Yeah.
Solely based on the excellent recommendations of the Dicebreaker video team.
So good.
Now you can do it on the excellent recommendations of me. Which, I like to think that my opinions are worth about as much all of the video teams together.
Oh, sure, yeah. I'm going to cancel my pre-order and then re-pre-order, and in the little, leave a note, I'm going to be like, Alex Meehan sent me here.
Friendship ended with Dicebreaker video team. Now Meehan is new best recommended friend.
Yeah, well, you can have best friends in this game.
You can.
You can.
They'll never leave you.
You can actually make them leave you in a really, really mean way. So I'll get to that. So a quick overview. Fort is a deck building game by Leader Games, the guys who make Root and Vast. The designer I don't know all that well.
Is Grant Rodiak?
Yes. Well, they've done a great job with this. It is right up my street in terms of being a deck builder. It's quite straightforward to learn. Like, my friend and I quickly picked it up just after, having a look through the rule book and got going. But there's a lot of depth in there, despite the accessibility. There are, so many ways that you can kind of change your strategy on the fly. The initial theming of it is kids building a fort or having their little friendship groups and collecting toys and pizza and all the things that kids love. And I think the theming is just really fantastic. I wonder if this was originally supposed to be an army game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was
was it SPQR?
SPQF, I think.
Oh wait, was it Roman? Yeah,
it was Roman themed, but also the soldiers and whatnot were animals. So it was kind of Root-esque, which obviously has drawn a lot of comparisons anyway, because Carl Ferrin is the artist, later is the publisher, but it has no connection to Root. None of the same designers, the same publisher and illustrator, but otherwise there's no tangible connection. So but can you build a fort out of pizza? Or is the pizza just fuel for the fort building?
I mean, it's that. So technically you are kind of, pizza is building the fort.
Yeah.
It's just that pizza doesn't make a good building material.
So in order to...
Crustwood.
I'm trying to think of the best way to
accurate
to outline this. So building a fort isn't your main goal. The main goal is just collecting as many victory points as you can during the game. So the game will end once someone reaches 25 points or when they've finished building their fort completely. So forts have different levels and you basically have to pay certain resources to move up to the next level. That resource can be pizza, it can be toys. So I'm imagining they're eating the pizza and then they're using the various toys to make the actual physical structure. But building forts are just one way of collecting victory points. So those victory points basically stay with you until the end. And then there is a victory point marker for the sort of ongoing game. And you can get victory points in many, many different ways. So you can get them through paying resources, through having a certain amount of things in a certain place. So you have something called a stuff, and you have something called a pack, and you could exchange resources between those, and then you can get cards that say gain victory points for this many things in your pack, and that just cycles. So every time you draw that card or when you play it, you just get that many victory points as long as you have stuff in your pack. You can also get victory points by trashing cards as well. That's how you can get rid of your best friends. You can actually trash them. We did check the rule book. It's really harsh. I don't know what it would be like in the universe of the game, but Yeah, I imagine it's just like kicking them out of your gang, which is really harsh for your best friend. But the element of the game that I think really impresses me is like the pacing of it. It's really on the fly in terms of you can initially have a strategy in mind depending on what you draw to start off with, but because cards move around so quickly, you can literally change things instantly just by what you do, but also by what your opponents do. So the two main things I think that really make this game stand out is one, the recruitment phase, which is where you get cards. You can either get them from a sort of shared pool called the park, or you can take them from the other players' yards, which are basically where cards go that aren't used during their turn. So you can take cards from opponents, like decks, and put them into yours, which I think is awesome, because not only does it make your strategy revolve around what's the optimum action this turn for me getting victory points or resources, but also like what do I not want my opponent to get.
Yeah.
Because there are certain cards in your deck, and like, I really don't want my opponent to get this because I really need this card and they would really benefit from it. So like, playing cards is not just action, it's also keeping cards as well. But also, there are public and private actions on a lot of the cards. The public ones are basically ones that the player can do on their turn, but then all the other players can choose to do that as well on their turn if they have a card of the matching suit.
It's a really good way of stopping cards going into your yard. So it encourages you to follow actions, basically. If you're like, oh, I would like to play this, but actually, if I can get rid of this safely here rather than risking it being snapped up, then I will. Yeah. It's really good. It means you're always paying attention to other people's turns.
Exactly. And that's the thing that I think is really awesome about the game, because you're rarely sat there like... And I've only played this with one other person because living situation. But it means that you're always keeping an eye on what the other person is doing, because depending on what they play, their public action could change your strategy completely, like again on the fly. And like, you can trash cards, for example, just to stop your opponent from getting them. So like, when you play certain cards, they will say things like, you can do this per kind of suit of the card you play. So you can play multiple cards on top of another just to increase how many times you can take pizza, for example.
So you get a pizza for a skateboard. It's like, well, here's 4 skateboards.
Yeah, here's 4. I'll give you 4 skateboards for that pizza. And like, you can do that to try and prevent, other players from taking your cards, because they'll go in the discard pile, not the yard. But also you can just trash cards as well, just to like avoid other players getting them, which is a really mean move sometimes, but it feels like really like satisfying because you're like, I've gotten the best use I can out of this card, goodbye. And then the other players are, disappointed by that. But it can be quite not vicious, but like, it keeps you on your toes. Like, the theme is really whimsical and sweet, but the game itself is quite like, it can get brutal.
Maybe it does have that in common with Root.
Yeah,
like, oh, look at these cute little animals or kids.
I will destroy
just
you.
Having at each other.
Yeah,
kicking each other off of the fort.
I'm gonna take your friend from the yard, and then I'm going to trash them. But so far, and I've played it quite a few times now, I've done a different strategy every single time. And like, I've won sometimes and lost others. There are like loads of other different things. So you can get like perk cards that can help you sort of gain victory points in different ways. And there are made up rules cards which, if you fulfill the requirements, give you victory points as well. Those are kept secret. There's also a macaroni sculpture, which you get if you complete your fort, which gives you extra points. But like, completing the fort isn't even wholly necessary. Like, I've not done it yet. I've won previously just through victory points alone. So it just feels like the kind of game that is really easy to get into, but has a lot of depth there. And it's, a surprising amount. Like, you wouldn't expect it. But I just love the pacing of it. It's so, it gets going and it keeps people invested. And, yeah, safe to say, my review is coming next week, I think. Matt Jarvis is smiling.
It's coming whenever you feel,
It's coming next week.
Good time of the game, but yeah, it'll be up on the website in the next week or two at least.
But safe to say, I like it quite a lot.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I think so. The embargo's lifted because they're in our pre-order, so you can go pre-order it from Leader.
Yep.
I think it's out the end of August is the release date. And I believe there's a tabletop sim mod for it from Leader,
yes,
so it's all legit. So if people want to go and try it, they can.
The tabletop mod is available now. It was released on the 21st, so you can play that. I don't know how far along that is. I don't know whether it's a demo or a full-on version of the game. But if you're not sure, I would definitely try out the tabletop mod. But if you like deck builders and you like really... By the way, the production value of this game is incredible. Like... everything feels lovely. Like, even the cards are laminated. And it's not that badly priced, from what I remember.
Nope.
I want to say it's like 25 quid here in the UK, so it's like $30, I think. In the US, obviously, shipping may vary, but...
Yeah.
It seems a very good little package.
Based on what people are saying. It's really well made. Like, everything feels nice. Not cheap at all. So yeah, I'd recommend getting it. So if you value my opinions,
wow,
wow,
you cowards, you rank amateurs.
No, it's just so nice to write a positive review.
Yeah.
If you trust the opinion of an expert rather than
an expert.
Your friend, they're not critics,
are
they?
Trash
what are they?
Trash your friends. I'll just leave you for the other group.
I'll take your friends and trash them in front of you.
So that's me, Matt Jarvis.
Yeah, excellent.
What have you been playing? Oh my goodness,
I can't talk about it.
You said.
People who might have listened to last week's podcast know I've been playing Pandemic Legacy Season 0. Which is the third and final entry in the series. It's due out later this year, I think is the official word. But I do have a copy. I've been making my way through. I won't mention any spoilers. This is not a review because I can't say anything in a review context until early August. The 5th is when our review even should be landing.
Yeah.
But as a general overview, we are now up to the end of August. So it takes place over a year again, 12 months in-game, and you can play... you might play 2 games each month, or if you succeed, or get the new adequate ranking, which means that you completed at least one objective. You will still proceed to the next month, but you won't necessarily get the same benefits as if you succeeded by completing all the objectives. Mm-hmm. And there is a debrief book now, which is new for Season 0. So, whereas before you would complete objectives and certain things would happen, now, depending on the level to which you achieve certain objectives, depending on certain choices you make that are just part of the story, and depending on some other things, there is a book of kind of narrative entries, almost like a choose your own adventure book, where you'll go to a numbered entry and certain things may happen or not, depending on what you do.
Cool.
I love that!
Gosh, they're just having... So Matt Leacock and Rob Davio, the designers, they are having a lot of fun here, is the takeaway. It's just a few games in, it was like, oh, okay, yeah, like I see that this is, like, it's still recognisably pandemic, although there's no disease cubes, it's all Soviet agents to begin with who are chasing you around the world. So you're putting Soviet agents on the board. But the places it then goes with that kind of spy thriller theme and intro is really interesting and really good fun. They're having an absolute ball with the theme of it. And partly because it's 2020 and partly because it's, you know, part of a series that's been going for 12 years now, and there have been a lot of these games. It's just refreshing to have a theme that is not go out, get the diseases again. But they are it doesn't just feel like they've swapped the cubes for little people. They have actually really gone in with it. I don't, to say any more might be spoilers, but if you think of spy thriller films and you think of the things that happen in spy thriller films or novels or stories in general, they really play with a lot of that stuff in fun ways that then plays back into the gameplay, plays back into the story. So at the start of the game, what I can say is there's a secret Soviet bioweapon called Project Medusa, so you're having to investigate that as this team of CIA medical specialists. But there's also a missing agent, Agent Sabik, who's kind of defected from the CIA, supposedly. And so you're also trying to hunt down this agent. So you immediately have these two kind of directions. And like I say, you could achieve one but not the other. So these two threads can progress at different speeds and different things can happen depending on whether you do one, whether you do the other, the decisions you make within achieving or not achieving. It's really good.
Yeah.
Obviously, I haven't finished it yet. You know, the caveat is that I'm still making my way through, and it's not a review. But the thing so far is that it feels like Pandemic enough, but it also feels very kind of different to Pandemic.
I wonder if I understand why they've kept the name and everything of Pandemic, because it's well known, it's like significant, it's a brand, but part of me kind of thinks, what if they just like gone for a completely different IP?
Seafall 2.
Yeah.
I know.
Seafall
Leave Seafall alone.
No.
We're not getting into that discussion.
It's a deeply flawed game that I had a lot of fun with.
Yeah,
I think. Sorry, Meehan.
I understand why they did, because you know, having not played it, I can't 100% know. But you say that there's some similarities there in terms of gameplay. You know, it's the same designers. Pandemic's a big name, but I kind of feel like maybe a different IP would have been a great idea. But I love the idea of them injecting more narrative elements into it, because some of the parts of Pandemic Season 1, which I'm still playing, I really like, are the things that hint at like narrative elements. So I'm not really going into spoilers, but you can establish relationships with the different characters in the game. But that's very much limited to just they get bonuses for working together. Like, it's more of a mechanic, but it kind of hints at like a greater sense of narrative, and there's some things that change throughout the game that kind of add like a sweeping epic story. But like, I'm glad to hear that they've kind of taken that a step further and actually added like just a little book, it sounds like, that you can kind of use to add depth to your experience. Like, you know, the gameplay of it, you know, is great, but it's always good to have that like feeling of like something you can really get engaged with, especially if you can create characters to the extent of which you've suggested, Mr. Jarvis.
Yeah, so you have a passport and you have multiple aliases as part of your, so you have an allied alias, so US aligned, you have a neutral alias, and then you have a Soviet alias. And you create those over the course of the story, and you can swap between them, and they will have different abilities and different kind of benefits. You can, obviously, if you are Soviet aligned, it's easier to go to places like Moscow or East Berlin. Whereas if you are neutral, you get other benefits as you're kind of moving around the world. They do a really good job of the kind of Cold War theme of it. They have fun with it, but in a way that's not kind of, it's not just, another one of these. I think they do quite a good job of actually grounding it enough where it's like, oh, okay, this is used for like a tangible reason. It's not just kind of like set dressing to try and pull people in. Like, it has an actual impact on the way that you are approaching that game. And I think it was last week we had someone email in about the decisions in Pandemic, kind of feeling whether they had like almost solved it. I feel like, without going into too much detail, the things they give to you here, it doesn't feel overwhelming, but it feels like maybe more than any pandemic game I can remember. I'd have to have a proper think. There are just multiple routes to achieve different things. So like I say, there's the hunt down the agent, there's the look into this secret project, there's this, that, the other. But the way that you can swap between different aliases, or you can go over here and do this, or go over there and do that, it feels like it's really giving you just a big kind of toolbox of stuff to use as you want. So it's like, oh, we want to hunt down the agent this month for this game and see how we do, and then maybe we'll deal with that over there. It feels a bit more open rather than just like, yeah, it's another one of these where we just need to knock down the cubes, and then get enough cards at some point and we're fine. You know, it's really interesting. Like I say, I'm still forming a full opinion about it, but so far it's kind of been a positive experience all round, which is not a review. Embargo people at Z-Man Games. Anyway, shall we move on to... Oh, sorry.
I was going to quickly ask that, Jarvis. At any point do you find yourself swimming around in a crocodile submarine or not?
I can neither confirm nor deny that.
Damn. At any point, do you swing around in the jungle as a sort of Tarzan type character?
Which James Bond film is that from?
It's got to be one of the bloody...
Maybe it's Octopussy?
I don't remember that. Are you sure you're not thinking of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
No, I'm fairly sure this happened. Do you at any point dress up like a clown or not?
Can we... Oh, God, can we not do this? Roger Moore films are terrible.
Because you can put different disguises on. So you probably could dress as a clown. I can't remember all the disguises.
Also, James Bond's a rubbish spy. Like, he's not Cold War era intrigue. We want... You asked me if Mr. Smiley's in there. Now we're talking. But Bond can sod off.
What do you mean? Johnny, don't you like the idea of wearing an 80s ski outfit and skiing around?
Give me Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy any day. Rather than skiing on people's lunch. Because you just can't stop being an attention-seeking expletive.
I've outed myself as someone who knows far too much about the Roger Moore era of Bond.
Objectively the worst one.
As a former subscriber to James Bond magazine.
He was lovable.
Was he lovable? Was he? I have very strong opinions about Roger Moore.
Enough about that.
Yes, please.
Should we move on to some news?
Yes,
There's
please.
actually quite a lot of news as well, so let's rattle on through it. First of all, kind of the big news coming out of this week, the Spiel des Jahres for this year has been awarded.
Yes, it has.
So, before we get into this, for those who aren't fully aware of the Spiel des Jahres, it's kind of the big board game prize of the industry. So it's a German prize that's been given out since 1974, I think, and it literally translates to Game of the Year. So past winners include things like Catan, Carcassonne, Ticket to Ride, basically any of the big games you can think of, they've probably won it. There are a few years where you look at it and go, oh, that's interesting, that didn't win, huh? For instance, 2015, Pandemic Legacy Season 1 didn't win. I can't remember what did win that year.
We've had a very lengthy discussion about this.
They eventually gave it a separate award that was kind of like, oh yeah, actually,
it is very good.
That game is really good.
We did have a very lengthy discussion about the history of the Spiel des Jahres. I can't remember what episode it was.
We did, yeah.
I think after nominations.
Yeah, the title was something like Spiel the Beans or something like that. So we have to find it in.
It was Spiel the Tea.
That episode. Spiel the Tea, thank you. So yes, and alongside the Spiel des Jahres is the Kenner Spiel des Jahres. So that's kind of like translates as an experts or connoisseurs game. So it tends to be a little bit heavier in terms of the gameplay, whereas the Spiel des Jahres is more family-friendly weight. And then there's the Kinderspiel, which is very much your kids. Kid-friendly games. So that's basically the rundown. This year's winners.
He's just gearing up.
So I tell you what, let's start with the Kenner Spiel des Jahres, because I feel like this is one that we might agree with. So the Kenner Spiel des Jahres this year, I apologise for my German pronunciation, by the way. I think it's Jahres is more accurate. I'm sure Loli's is somewhere shaking her head.
Oh, it's fine. She's shaking her head at something else, don't worry.
She's shaking her head at the winner of the Spiel des Jahres.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Kenner Spiel des Jahres this year was won by The Crew,
Hey.
the co-op car game, which I think we are kind of all big fans of.
Absolutely love it. I've now bought I've bought 3 copies because I gave one away, and I wanted to have 2 just in case, because this game's brilliant. It's magical. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
However, it would have been better off in the Spiel des Jahres category rather than the Kennerspiel, because it's a trick-taking game with 50 different mission variants and some very interesting things in terms of how much you can and can't communicate and all that kind of stuff, but it is not a heavyweight game at all. Like, it's, the first half dozen of the 50 missions in the game are just teaching you how to play it, including, like, the first mission is do a trick, get someone to win a trick, and then it's like, wait, we won a trick. So, okay. It's, while the end of the game is very, very complex and requires a lot of clever play, the game overall, as a core experience, is just not that heavy.
Yeah.
I love it, but it was in the wrong category.
Yeah.
So
agreed.
Well,
so for comparison, last year's winner was Wingspan,
Yeah,
which I think is still, it's not the heaviest game in the world, but it's more complex than The Crew.
Yeah.
So the runners-up for the Kennerspiel des Jahres, just for clarity, was the King's Dilemma, the legacy game which we've played on the channel, which is very Game of Thrones-esque. You're running a kingdom, advising a leader, that kind of thing. And Cartographers, a role-player tale, which is a roll-and-write game where you basically create maps as you go.
That's the one I think we discussed it a few weeks ago, because the role player Adventures was on Kickstarter. So that was basically the game that came after role player, which, I've not played it, but I played a little bit of King's Dilemma and I liked it.
I've played quite a lot. I missed my campaign terribly because obviously it's on hold right now, but it is wonderful. Like, that, in my opinion, that should have won because The Crew shouldn't have been in this category.
Should have been in.
It is exactly the right way. It is, dynamic and fun and interesting and cutthroat and just, like, it's beautifully themed. It is great. So, I mean, well done to all the nominees, obviously, but especially well done to The Crew for being a really great game, even though it turned up to the wrong party and got crowned prom queen.
Yeah.
Speaking of wrong parties, the Spiel des Jahres for 2020 went to Pictures.
It's bunk. It's a load of bunk. I hate that game.
Which is, Johnny, do you want to explain what Pictures is?
Yeah, it's rubbish. So, basically, Pictures is a game where you have a grid of images in front of you. And kind of like Dixit, you need to guide people toward the right image. You do this by taking some building materials. So on your turn, you might have some wooden blocks, or you might have 2 bits of string, or I think there are maybe some pebbles in there. I can't quite remember. But you need to use these materials in order to make some form of picture that will be evocative of the card you're directing people toward, so that they can guess it, you can gain points, and you carry on. And then you move the materials round. So each round you're using some different things. And we sat down to play this at PAX, I want to say Unplugged. I'm pretty sure it was
Unplugged, yeah.
Yeah, we sat down to play it. And we were like, what a great idea. And 20 minutes later, we were all in a bad mood. We were like, this is just... it's bunk. It just is. It's like, it's bland. And uninteresting. And when we got stuff right, we were like, yeah, oh, yeah, okay. And with the other stuff, we were like, oh, you didn't get, oh, I see, right. Like, it just has no spark to it, in my opinion. Like, it was
games like that can really work. Like Detective Club was my favourite game of last year, and that game revolves around it's like Dixit, using pictures to communicate.
I mean, I absolutely adore Mysterium, and I always will. But so we were kind of... I don't even think that it's a matter of us having set our expectations too high. It wasn't like, we were upset because we weren't jumping on the tables with the great sense of imagination that we'd managed to get between us, because it just didn't feel like there was any. It's just like, it's just very literal, and I just think it's dull, to be honest. So I know for a fact that Lollies and Wheels feel the same way, because every time when we went to PAX East, we saw people playing it. We walked past and we were just like, "Don't do it." It's just, I am baffed, Matt Jarvis.
So, in contrast, for full clarity, the Spiel des Jahres jury described the game as having one for its, quote, great aha moments, and the, quote, often astonishing creations made by players with, quote, the guessing sessions even, quickly resembling art exhibitions.
Okay.
Which, everything I've heard about that game doesn't necessarily line up with that very kind of, very...
Maybe they were playing with art with like people who were very...
playing with actual artists.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow,
maybe
really made some great stuff.
maybe we were at fault. I don't know, but the aha moments for us were just moments, you know, like just nah.
Yeah, I think there's potentially a seed of a good idea in there in terms of like, I like games that allow players to express themselves. Like a lot of party games can do that, and the aha moments there are the ones where it's like, oh, I didn't realise you were thinking like that, or when you do connect with someone in that way, and you're like, oh, we were thinking exactly the same thing, and I can see what it's going for with that kind of structure, but it just sounds like it didn't follow through with the idea. But, you know, obviously the jury thought it did, so...
Yeah. So, for context, last year's winner was Just One, which is the game where you kind of... Everyone says an answer, and then if they match, you get rid of them, and you're trying to give clues to someone.
Yeah, I've
which
heard
I think,
all right things about it.
Yeah, I think Lowleys at least has played it. I've played it as well, and it's fine. Again, it's one of those ones where it's like, this is fine, but I don't know if I would ever call it the best game of the year.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the territory we're in.
I think we've had we had that discussion with the Spiel T episode, where we were like, we're not sure what the jury for the Spiel Jahres are doing at the moment, but
yes,
you do you guys.
Yeah. So the runners up for the Spiel Jahres, so the two runners up were My City, which is kind of a legacy game about building a city from Rainer Knizia, a prolific creator of pretty much everything you've heard of. And Nova Luna, which is co-designed by Uwe Rosenberg, so another really big name designer.
Yeah.
But again, neither of those games, and for full clarity, I haven't played either of them, but looking at them and kind of reading through their rules, neither kind of blew me away to the point where I was like, I need to seek this out. So maybe on the table when you're playing them, they're amazing, but all the Spiel Jahres nominations this year were kind of like, okay.
Yeah. Kind of wish they'd look a bit further afield sometimes, maybe. Just look at some things that might not be an obvious choice to them. Well, what are you going to do?
Softs in the Loft 2021.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
I'm waiting for the legacy version where you have to tear the can in half afterwards. You have to write a name on the can, and as you drink it, you just feel emotionally attached to it as you drain its life
exactly
force.
Or you have to drink a little bit of it, and then you have to put it back, and then obviously it will gradually get more flat.
Yeah.
So that's part of the, you're sharing in the pain.
All right, let's move on to this next news story. Rattling through. This one's a very quick one.
What won the Kennerspiel?
Kennerspiel, we went through.
The Kinderspiel.
The Kinderspiel was won, so that was announced last month because it's a separate jury. So that was won by Hedgehog Roll.
Yeah, Hedgehog Roll.
Yeah.
Which I believe is also called Speedy Roll, which is... It seems very... To be honest, that seems way more fun than pictures.
Yeah.
So Hedgehog Roll is a game where you literally have a tennis ball and you roll it across the floor to try and pick up things covered in Velcro, and that's the game. It's that's it.
I would play that over pictures any day of the week.
Yeah.
Any day.
Okay.
So yes, that was the winner of the children's game.
Carry on, Mr. Jarvis.
Speaking of games that no one has heard of, rather than games that people have heard of, the Transformers trading card game is coming to an end, or has come to an end already, in fact. So it was launched at the end of 2018, I think November 2018, by Wizards of the Coast, who make Magic the Gathering, who are owned by Hasbro, who own Transformers and pretty much everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Monopoly.
Yeah.
My Little Pony, things like
that.
Yeah.
If there was, if Hasbro was a Transformer, they would be the one that is in the film, and that is voiced by Orson Welles.
Unicron.
Unicron, that's the one. They
Wait,
would be
didn't
Unicron.
Orson Welles voice Optimus Prime?
No.
Orson Welles was Unicron. It was his final cinematic role.
Yeah. And Unicron just consumes everything. And it's enormous.
Yep.
So the Transformers trading card game, notable because it had Transformers, so it was basically Magic the Gathering. Hey, I'm getting there. Give me a second.
Sorry.
So the one kind of gimmick it had was that the Transformers were on double-sized cards, and you could flip them from bot mode to alt mode.
That's
so
right.
You could transform them and go as you did it, although that was optional. And then, not satisfied with making cards that were double the size of normal cards, they followed the first, second wave, I don't know. Anyway, one of the big expansions that quickly followed was for Metroplex, which is the Transformer that is a literal city.
Yes.
So they put out an even bigger card for Metroplex. And then, not satisfied with that, they then started to introduce combiner robots, which were made up of multiple cards that could go together.
Yep.
So
I was going to say, is it stuff like Devastator?
Devastator exactly was the kind of lead of that expansion. So yeah, it was. I played it and it was nothing to write home about. It very much seemed like it was leaning on the hey, Transformers are cool. Remember when they go and turn from one to the other? That was fun, wasn't it? So it launched November 2018, and as of the end of May, the final expansion is called Titan Masters Attack.
Okay.
Mm.
Has now been announced as its final release.
Matt Jarvis, I'm as emotionally touched by this as the moment where, spoiler alert for a really old film, when Optimus Prime dies in the Transformers film. It's the same emotional feeling, you know, of just goodbye, old friend.
That's a dirty rotten line, you know it.
Good night, sweet prince.
Speaking of emotional outpourings, the reason given by Hasbro or Wizards of the Coast was that the Transformers trading card game, quote, failed to, quote, meet the expectations of the broader fan base to engage further with the brand. While the retailer and player community continued to grow, our product offerings didn't. So it seems like they are saying, hey, maybe we messed up and didn't bring enough out.
Right.
But it's very much a kind of like, look, it's just not doing it.
Yeah.
Matt, imagine if you fit those words into like a discombobulator and like turn the crank.
Word soup.
What would come out would be, it wasn't making enough money for our shareholders, and therefore we had to end it. Kill it.
Yeah. The whole engage with the brand. As soon as you see that phrase, it's like,
Now, what I would have done is make it a Netrunner-like game, where one of you is playing as Autobots and one of you is playing as Decepticons, and, you know, basically, classic Gen 1, Season 1, the Decepticons are always attacking a hydroelectric power plant in order to get enough energon to get back to Cybertron. And the Autobots are like, don't do that, it's illegal, therefore we're going to prolong your presence here on Earth and arguably just string this out a lot longer than it needs to be. But anyway, I would have it be like the Decepticons, you know, they're playing cards and like, here goes Laserbeak. Oh, Laserbeak's found some energon. Boom! I'm a tenth of the way to winning.
Yeah, you could make it like asymmetric.
Yeah.
Like the Autobots have to like seek out the Decepticons, and the Decepticons have to get enough of the stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hasbro, if you're listening, just send me the license in the post. I'll get right on it.
Yeah.
The license to the whole of the Transformers franchise. Yes, please. We could do better than that than what's happening right now.
Yeah.
Which is just Michael Bay putting
apparently,
Mark
I don't know.
Wahlberg
Apparently,
in
Bumblebee
it.
was all right. I don't know why I said it like two separate words there, but
Bumblebee.
Bumblebee.
Was okay.
Have you heard of the Transformer called Bumblebee?
The moving pictures of Bumblebee.
I loved that bit when his thing popped off and he peed on the head of that character. That was fantastic, wasn't it?
They should do a gritty reboot of The Girl Who Loved Powerglide. That was a good one. It's one bit if you like. There's a fantastic sequence where Powerglide, as a jet, basically builds a house by doing like attack runs where he's dropping bricks and spraying mortar. It's really cool. Like really just weaponized construction.
I wish we had that. Can make some more houses for us to live in.
Yeah.
But you know, pour one out to Transformers TCG.
Yeah, I'll do that tonight. Yeah.
Gone and forgotten. Sorry, Transformers.
Brutal.
It was a bit boring. Anyway, actually, this would have probably made more sense after the Spiel de Jahres talk, because just by coincidence, you mentioned Dixit and Mysterium, Johnny. And the studio that makes them, Libellude, I apologise if I'm pronouncing it wrong, as a French studio. Libellude. It's been acquired by, surprise, Asmodee.
The Eater of Worlds. So, the Unicron of the other Eater of Worlds. It's Moonbase 2. Yum, 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 yum.
So, Asmodee, the owner of, you name it, it's probably owned by Asmodee. Fantasy Flight, which makes X-Wing and Keyforge. Ticket to Ride maker, Days of Wonder. Also Carcassonne maker, Pandemic maker, Zedman. Catan Studio, which makes, you guessed it, Catan.
Yeah.
Pretty much
everyone.
Well, there's a big old roster of studios and publishers that sit underneath the Asmodee umbrella. Yeah. Tell you what's not here anymore, though, is Plaid Hat. As of earlier this year, the Dead of Winter and Seafall, and maker of more popular games like Spectre Ops and so on. Forgotten Waters is also a recent one of theirs. They went independent again earlier this year, so I believe they're the first company to go under the Asmodee umbrella and then emerge the other side. Albeit stripped of most of their popular games, because they had to give up Dead of Winter and Stuff Fables and Mice and Mystics, and I don't know if Spectre Ops ended up with one of the Asmodee family, but either way, Plaid Hat kind of emerged the other side with essentially just Forgotten Waters and Ashes, Rise of the Phoenix Born, and Summoner Wars, I think.
Like a Transformer being eaten by Unicron. Kind of pooped out the other end.
That's harsh on Plaid Hat. Plaid Hat makes some good games.
No, but missing maybe a wheel and I
think they're going to have to
spoilers or something.
Build back up again. So the short of this is Libellude is now owned by Asmodee. They haven't really announced what that means. It just means more money for Asmodee. Well done, Asmodee.
Hey.
It tends to be that when these studios have been acquired, they've kind of carried on as usual, albeit with some internal changes that obviously we learn about later on. But yes, that's the thing. So from now on, Libellude products will be Asmodeed. Next story, moving on. Alex, Meehan, you wrote this one. Tell us about the Fuzzies.
Guys, you've got to watch out for the Fuzzies. They're out and about.
I've got a real bad case of the Fuzzies coming down.
The Muppets are old news. It's all about the Fuzzies now.
It does really sound like a knockoff Muppet show, doesn't it?
Yeah, Kermit the Toad. The Fuzzies is a dexterity game from the designers behind Monikers and Wavelength, which is a game that we really like. And it's like Jenga, but instead of blocks, you're using these little sticky balls that are fuzzy, and they can attach themselves to other balls that are also fuzzy. And you essentially take turns to remove one of the balls and place it somewhere else on the tower. And sometimes you have extra challenges while doing that, like holding a hand over one of your eyes, or elephant hands, which I'm a little bit confused about.
Wait,
it just says elephant hands, or is it arms? I can't.
First of all, you have to find an elephant, then you have to ask if you can hold, when people hold other people's arms, slide between their armpits. You have to do that with the elephant.
Well, are you just doing this because they've got big, smashy? It's just fists.
I'll admit,
it just
I haven't
says
thought this
elephant arms. So maybe it's you have to hold your arms like trunks or something, and loose. I don't really know, but hey, that's one of the things.
That's one of the things. Put it on the box.
One of the things. Put it on the box.
One of the things is elephant arms. Buy this game.
That's really all there is to it, to be honest. You knock the tower over, you lose. It looks fun. I like the balls. You can put that on the box as well. They're They provide tweezers.
Yeah, how small are these balls then? If you're talking tweezers, are they kind of like little cotton bud balls?
Yeah, they're like.
Oh, okay.
You can try and do it with your fingers, but they also provide tweezers.
An elephant's not going to be able to do anything with that.
Yeah, I know. They'll just suck it all up, maybe. I wouldn't recommend playing the game with an elephant. Although, you know. I guess it's the draw of it's probably more the designers behind it. And it looks nice. Like, the art design's fun.
Yeah. The balls remind me of, is it Rainbow Drops?
Yeah.
That's
Exactly, yeah. Rainbow Drops, or like that children's show that no one ever knows. I showed it to you, Matt Jarvis. Do you remember the one with the two little balls? And they've got they're like aliens, and they drive around in a little car. I can't remember what it's called. Maybe like Bits and Bombs or something.
Write in with your answers to podcast@dicebreaker.com, and we will look at them and go,
But yeah, there you go. The Fuzzies.
That's the Fuzzies.
That's the Fuzzies, yeah.
It's already passed its Kickstarter target. I just had a quick check. It will be a thing.
I mean, the game is like £15 or something, so...
Yeah.
It's alright.
And it's out this December, apparently. So just in time to play the Fuzzies with
your family.
Whoever, at Christmas.
Give your family the gift of the Fuzzies today.
You find a dozen fuzzy balls behind the sofa.
Oh, yeah.
6 months later.
Oh, and I bet they get really grim.
I bet they absolutely attract fluff and hair, don't they? If they're made to stick to each other, they're going to be... You're going to find one that's like the size of a large...
solid crust.
Like watermelon that's just gathered over time.
Oh, God. And then if it gets really popular and everyone buys one, the world will be overrun by the Fuzzies.
Earth 2 is just a large fuzzy that's amassed, kind of like Katamari style.
You wouldn't be able to walk because you just stick to everything.
All right, let's round off news with this final news story, which is that Magic the Gathering has a new format, which is out on Magic the Gathering Arena specifically for now, and then it will be coming out in physical form later in the year because of everything kind of playing havoc with releases. So it's called Jumpstart, and it actually sounds kind of interesting as someone that doesn't play a lot of Magic the Gathering. So it's the premise is you get 2 half decks, and they are themed in some way. So they could be themed around certain characters, or they could be themed around certain types of lore from... So it could be elves, it could be archaeology, it could be dragons.
Fuzzies.
It could be a certain planeswalker. And or they could be mechanically based. So it could be something like, I don't know, they all have flying, or they all have another Magic the Gathering keyword that fails to come to my mind right now. They let you churn through your deck, whatever that's called. Sorry, Magic the Gathering fans. I imagine you're screaming at me right now. But either way, this is for people who don't know what those words mean to get into Magic, to bring me back onto course. So yeah, you essentially pick 2 of these things, you slam them together, and you've got yourself a deck. So it takes much of the fine-tuning out of deck building. You don't have to pick one card at a time. It's not the same as drafting where you're kind of putting it together turn after turn. It's you pick 2 of these, you slam them together, you've got a working deck, roll from there. So it's a 40-card deck, so they're 20-card sets. And on Arena they include 500 cards already in Magic, and then there are 37 brand new cards for the format. And there are currently 46 themes available for 121 potential combinations to rattle off some more numbers. But the long and short of it is that it's a way of building a new deck kind of each time you play without a lot of effort. On Magic the Gathering Arena, you can play till August the 16th at the moment as part of a limited event, which you can enter with either gems or gold, so the free currency that you get just from playing, or the stuff that you pay real money for. And then so you can give it a go essentially for free, and then you can pick the sets up later in the year if you want to. And that's Jumpstart. So we should have hopefully by the time you listen to this, if not shortly afterwards, we will have a preview of the set live on the website, kind of some hands-on time with it, with our thoughts. Yay. So check that out. But I'm all for vast, kind of incomprehensible games that have been going for 30 years, introducing a way for people to be able to pick them up and play relatively easily. So I think that was what made Keyforge so appealing. It's like, oh right, I just get this deck. I don't have to worry about the meta looming overhead. All right, and that is news. In terms of releases, we mentioned that Fort is coming out, and the pre-orders are live now. There's also been a release date announced for Mariposas, which is the next game from Wingspan designer Elizabeth Hargrave, which is about migrating butterflies. Yeah. So that's out on August the 28th. It's just been announced. There wasn't a Kickstarter or anything like that, was it? It's just straight to
retail,
straight to shelves.
I think just because Wingspans did so well that they were like,
let's get some Mariposas on the go.
Jump it. All right, let's move on to some questions from the audience. Audience, if you're listening to this and you'd like to give us a question, you can email us at podcast@dicebreaker.com. You can find us on Twitter @joindicebreaker or around the various social media sites. Wing us a message with your question or what you'd like to know, and we might pick it for a future episode of the show.
Put it in a can of soft drink.
Yeah.
And maybe one of us
put it in your loft.
The odds of it happening,
Send us your definitive list of soft drink rankings.
Oh, what an argument that would be.
We all know that Irn Bru is at the top.
Oh, yeah. Oh, mate, I had an Irn Bru sour the other day. It's delicious sour beer brewed with Irn Bru from Exhale. It was delicious.
That sounds very strong. Yes, good on Irn Bru. Congrats. This podcast not sponsored by Irn Bru.
Yeah, no. Although, if you want to sponsor us, and just send us a load of Irn Bru.
Yeah, come on, Bar, pull your finger out.
Meehan, would you like to read this one from Marshake? At the top of the list.
Marshake, yeah. I will.
Magic? I don't know. Anyway.
Dear Dicebreaker crew, Johnny mentioned during a video with Luke Westerway. Who the hell is that? We know who Luke is. He's a lovely friend from outside Xbox.
Extra.
I know.
Keep reading.
That some people consider games you're playing not true tabletop due to lax rules. Having played very strict D&D and Pathfinder games and being a stickler for rules, I'll bet not a very good one, for some time, I would like to play devil's advocate and say that being fanatical about rules can be very efficiently derail a campaign and completely lose the mood of the campaign. There's a note from Matt here.
We've had to trim the email down basically because
there was a very nice story that Mashake put in and I cut it out. But thank you for the story. I just cut it out for the sake of time, which this now defeats.
Another thing about Irn Bru.
From your experience, what rules make tabletop RPGs overly complicated and absurd, losing the ambience in the process? Thanks in advance for your reply. Lolies isn't here. So the joke,
you can still tell the joke for Lolies.
Yeah, she could be listening. Why do rogues wear medium armor? Because it's made out of hide.
Very good.
I actually really like that one.
Yeah.
Well, no.
It's very good.
Lolies would probably like it.
Wow.
Yeah, if anything, it's a little too good for Lolies.
Hot damn. I think spell casting requirements make TTRPGs overcomplicated and absurd. Like, okay, I'm down with if your hands are tied and you need to be able to gesture to cast a spell, then you can't do it. That's kind of mechanically interesting. However, if it's like, oh, I need to cast this spell, but I've run out of bitumen and I don't have the tear of a born again Christian. It's just like, could we not? Can you just cast a spell, please? It makes having this raw, sometimes primal power that's meant to be really literally empowering just finicky, and it's like, it's like going up to a barbarian who's about to start swinging an axe and being like, excuse me, have you done your tax return? It's like, it's rubbish. Sod that. That's my answer anyway.
Yeah, I think along similar lines, the two that come to mind are encumbrance and travel time, which they exist. Like, I think encumbrance is fine if it's kind of abstracted a bit, or it's like you can hold 10 items, something like that, so that someone doesn't just have 150 things that they might use at some point in their pack. But trying to work out 1.6 kilograms of candles alongside this, that, and the other, and actually, I don't know, 6 meters of rope would weigh X grams.
Yeah.
It just sucks all the fun out of it. It's just unnecessary. And
it is unnecessary.
Travel time as well. Like, travel time you can just abstract and say, you spend 2 days traveling to here. But measuring on a map and going like, okay, well, on foot they travel at this, and then they need to take a rest, and just... If it doesn't serve the story or the player experience, just get rid of it.
Yeah, you can just eyeball all that stuff. It's basically, the question with encumbrance should be, do you reckon you can carry all that? And if anyone's like, maybe, it's like, well, if it's only maybe, then it's going to be tough going. Get rid of some stuff. Or no, all right, you can't carry it. And similarly, like travelling, it's interesting, because I was playing in a campaign of Fading Suns, which is a brilliant space opera RPG. But sometimes we would have a week of travel time between like one planet and the next, and obviously we didn't play it out narratively. It would basically be like, okay, what does everyone spend the week doing, and are there any conversations anyone wants to have, and then we'll just jump forward. But I found that weirdly disrupting as well, because it was like, well, a week's gone past now. Is my character still annoyed with that one because of the tiny interaction that happened just before we got on board? Like, I think traveling times can really interrupt the flow. And that's true whether you're blasting through it or whether you are just role-playing it and being like, okay, you've got 3 more days of riding, so that's 3 more times I'll roll on the random encounter table. It's kind of a blessing and a curse. But yeah, I'm right there with you. Encumbrance, do one. I think I'm quite hungry. Anyway.
I think for me, it'd probably be something like... certain spells have like area effects, but they're very specific in the sense that this one is a cone, and this one is a sphere, and this one is... And I kind of get the fact that it's sort of like evolved from what D&D used to originally be, which was like a very straight up like war game. Like they, those specifics were required for what it was then. But the thing is, D&D is so different now. It's trying to be more accessible and trying to sit there and work out, oh, it's this distance and it needs to be this area and this shape of the cone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just don't have time for that. And the thing is, playing spellcasters is really fun because you have such a wide variety, especially spellcasting classes like sorcerers. You can play around with different kind of spells and weird effects and things, and it just pulls you out of the moment for me instantly when you're like figuring out exactly what the distance is. And I think you should just be able to eyeball it and say, oh, okay, I'll let you have those 2 people in this area of effect. I know sometimes it could be fun if like someone's up in the air, for example, but you can just say, okay, you get that person up in the air. Like it can just be up to the discretion of everyone involved, and not exact numbers and working out what the what the distance is.
I for one am very thankful for a DM that allows us to bend the rules to the point where they are almost unrecognisable. Some might call it taking the piss a bit, but it just again it serves the fun of it. Like, you're not there to, like Johnny says, turn it into tax returns and spreadsheets and this, that, and the other. Like, you're there to have fun, to tell a fun story. So, just, ditch everything else that's not contributing to that. Because, let's be real, it ain't fun.
Nope.
All right. Johnny, would you like to read this one from @KyleWraith?
Yeah. So, KyleWraith asks, sorry about the pronunciation. The question is, apologies if you already answered this previously. I haven't managed to get through the archives yet. What's the coolest nerd thing you own?
So in terms of tabletop specifically, I'm not sure. I own a chess set, which is quite nice, which has kind of little Greek statues that are all specific Greek statues.
Oh, that's cool.
That was a very nice Christmas present from my family one year. In terms of more general, I guess, quote-unquote geek or pop culture things, I once bought my wife the Sword of Anduriel forged from the shards of Narsil, which sits in the cupboard.
The Flame of the West.
Yes, which is full size and extremely large.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So that just is about in our flat.
That's pretty great.
Which isn't a large flat. It's about 2.5 Anduriels.
Well, you never know when you might need it. So
True. I would say in terms of broad appeal, the coolest nerd thing I have is a signed first edition of Cyberpunk. Like Cyberpunk, not 2020, the boxed very first game, still with the original D10 in it. And I think it's older than me. So, like, it's pretty, like, that's a nice thing that I'm pleased to have. In terms of the nerd thing I cherish the most, it's probably, like, the collection I have of all the notebooks of all the campaigns I've played in. So you know how there's always one person who takes notes? That person is always me in the campaign I'm playing in. I take reams and reams of notes. And it's so I can go back and be like, oh, do you remember that session? And recall it in, like, really strong detail. So sometimes, like, you know, I've been sat with friends, we've been playing games, we've had a few drinks or whatever, and we've been like, oh, do you remember that time or that time? And it'd be like, oh, hang on. And I'll get down sort of the thing. So I've probably got close on a dozen now of just notebooks. And I absolutely adore them because they're just little time capsules of, like, some of my best times hanging out with friends. So that's nice.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah.
I don't really own anything particularly impressive, mostly because of, I guess I'm young and don't have a huge amount of disposable income. I have a cool dice tray that's like wooden and I like rolling dice in it, and I have a picture that I got with the cast of Critical Role when they came over to London for Comic-Con. I have some fan artwork of stuff.
Wait till you're old and shriveled like me and Matt Jarvis. You'll get there.
I didn't say you were old. I said I was young. Okay? That's
We're only
you.
old in relative terms.
You're only old relative to me.
That's you twisting it. I suppose now I have a haunted edition of Atmosphere.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's cool. That we found dumped outside.
I actually, I just remembered something. So I have a Pathfinder starter box set, which was the first kind of proper RPG I ever played with friends. And I opened it up the other day because we were looking for dice, and we kind of chuck most of our dice in there, so there were like hundreds of dice. But I found badges that my very good friend made when we played our first campaign of Pathfinder, and there was a plot involving us joining like a group of adventurers known as the Hearts of Gold, and he made these little badges, pin badges, coloured in with, I think, highlighter and written in biro that just said Hearts of Gold, and they're still in there, and I treasure them very much.
That's wonderful.
So cute.
I love that
He
kind of
always
stuff.
goes above and beyond. So
I guess the only other cool thing I have is the costume that I made. But I guess I own it, made it.
is this a traitor?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really
It's cool.
impressive. Like, yeah,
It's
a really,
not at the
really good
moment,
costume.
mate. It's in a box and parts of it fallen off. But it was
being able to
at
make
its
a costume.
prime.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe one day
Alright.
I'll cosplay again, but time and money.
It's not really the season for cosplaying at the moment either.
No.
in
No.
fairness. I will read this one from Kirby Rawstorn. What video game would you like to see make the transition to RPG/board game, or vice versa? What board game would you like to see translated into a video game? I'd quite like to see a Silent Hill RPG. That or a Dr. Mario/Holby City crossover.
Oh, yes, please. Be like just a bunch of beleaguered NHS workers chasing Dr. Mario around, being like, Dr. Mario, no, you have to prescribe those. Just throwing pills at people.
Just throwing pills at people.
Just like
Punching ceiling tiles out.
weaponizing pharmaceuticals. Boom! Just stuffing mushrooms into his frothing maw. Yeah, that one, please.
What's that?
I think that was one of the things I liked about Bullet Heart.
Bullet Heart emoji.
Because it was kind of, its theming it's a shmup.
Yeah.
So it's a bullet hell shooter, but actually in playing it was more like a Dr. Mario-esque, Tetris-esque, Bubble-Bobble-esque puzzle game. And I think it's been the first one of those that really felt like that, because there have been some real bad Tetris attempts, like ones where you drop little plastic pieces down and it's trying to actually just recreate it, or ones where it's more of a kind of abstracted card game, but they've never felt, at least I've never really played one that felt really satisfying like those video games. So I think Bullet is kind of scratching that itch for me.
Yeah. I've been playing an awful lot of Dead Cells recently. I got kind of hooked on it again because I love roguelikes. And I'm really in love with that world. Like, the kind of its blend of humour and sort of environmental storytelling, which sort of hints at the malaise that made everything awful. I've played it for, probably over 100 hours, and it's still not given up the lore. It teases it out in the same way Dark Souls or Bloodborne does, and it's also combined with like a beautiful art style and brilliant creature design. So I think that's really fertile ground for a tabletop game. I wouldn't want it to be a dungeon crawler though. That's the problem. It's like with the Dark Souls board game, it's like it's a co-op dungeon crawling, go hit the thing board game. It's like this is a very literal translation of that thing I like. I want Dead Cells to do something a bit different. And I don't know what that something is, which is probably why I'm not a rich and famous board game designer. But yeah, Dead Cells would be mine.
Once you and your friend make Softs in the Loft, then, then you will be.
No, Softs in the Loft is all his. I'll help him out with the Transformers adaptation. Okay. Then it'll be fine.
I would say I have 2 ideas. One of them would be, and again, this is really like basic, and I've had this want for a long time, Mass Effect RPG. Just because, one of the first big universes I ever really fell in love with in terms of like the world building in that series of games is delicious. And I think obviously it's kind of ripe for, RPG. Obviously there's Starfinder as being the other big like sci-fi RPG, but I really think the world that Mass Effect has to offer, and the fact that it's open to multiple different galaxies, and like there's already a really solid foundation there. They've done one for Dragon Age. I don't know why they didn't do one for Mass Effect, because frankly Mass Effect is a more popular brand, but maybe just because Dragon Age was based off of tabletop RPGs, so maybe they felt like it translated better. So yeah, Mass Effect RPG. I believe there is a fan-made one somewhere, but I want something official. But my other idea would be, last year I really, really got into a game called Fire Emblem Three Houses. Which is a Japanese tactical RPG. I guess the best way to describe it. You play it on a grid and you have different units, and it's partly that and partly like a visual novel style game.
Partly have tea with your teacher or your students, rather.
Yeah, you have tea with different people and you build relationships, and there's this really epic storyline with 3 different campaigns, and I've not played the whole thing, but I would really want a game like that that's like a deck builder, where like you play as one of the different houses, and your cards are like the different units as well as like the different attacks and the different weapons. So there's obviously like loads of different weapons you could equip, but there's also like these special weapons. I can't remember what they're called, but Matt Jarvis probably remembers what they're called.
I can't remember either.
Yeah, it's fine. The relics, the heroes' relics, I think they're called, or something like that.
Oh yeah, that's it.
And yeah, you can recruit the different members of other houses, maybe like you can in the game, and then you have to like defeat the other 2 houses in order to win, something like that.
Yeah, I will say, like, dungeon crawlers kind of get this, but that tactical combat, kind of like out of Final Fantasy Tactics, that kind of style of combat, I've never really found in a board game. And so, like, I would absolutely, and like Fire Emblem is very much that. So I would be really interested to see a game that makes that. Like, a lot of dungeon crawlers are just kind of, I think maybe Gloomhaven gets there a little bit more because you're thinking about more of the way you're using the cards from your hand and your, their double uses or the deck you have as that specific character. But there's never been one that quite, scratches that itch. Like Into the Breach as well is another one that I feel would work because it's very kind of...
Yeah.
You can think multiple turns ahead because you know exactly where things are going to hit. It has that kind of board game-esque-ness to it, where it's like pure information and you're just working your way through this puzzle. But yeah, Fire Emblem, I think a deck builder would be a really good one. Where it's like, you have tea in between different fights, and then you can add different cards.
Yeah, you can buff by having tea with certain units. You can add like buffs to them, or like if you improve support relationships with certain units, then they improve or something. Yeah. Or you level them into like a different class or something like that. Or there's a solo RPG where it's me and I'm romancing Claude, and then we have tea together. Someone write that for me, and then I'll play it.
I'll get right on that.
Tea. I will say that a Dead Cells like legacy game where each run you gain new things. Yeah.
Yes, please. Give me that. I'll have one of those.
All right. Well, I think that is about all we have time for because we're off to have tea with Claude.
Yes!
So we will bring this week's podcast to an end. But before we go, what have we got coming up on the Dicebreaker YouTube channel at youtube.com/Dicebreaker?
Oh, that's always such a good question. It always catches me completely underprepared. Actually, Wheels is able to get back in the studio. So he's not only gone back into the studio, but he has wrangled in Dean Abdu of Dungeon Breaker fame. And through the medium of generally keeping their distance, using hand sanitizer and wearing gloves, they have managed to record a Let's Play of Infinity, the latest sort of, I guess you call it a starter set aimed at getting people into playing it. So that is coming up this weekend alongside Dungeon Breaker, which is obviously a continuing series. And then next week... we're sort of starting to build up some of the old tutorials on the YouTube channel. So we've got a guide on how to play Azul, which is brilliant, and you should play it. It's such a relaxing game unless you're playing with 2 people, in which case it is the most intense thing you'll ever experience. And then we've got sort of other goodies like the normal weekly stream coming on up and other stuff. So yeah, it's. My God, I actually answered the question.
Yeah,
there's some exciting stuff. And over on the website, we have, as of this recording, we have a review of the Dishonored RPG by one Alex Meehan, which we've also played on the YouTube channel. So if you want to see it in action and then hear how it kind of pans out over more sessions, we've got you covered, dear listeners. We also, as I mentioned earlier, we have a kind of look at the Magic the Gathering Jumpstart format coming up, which hopefully will be live as of this going live or very shortly afterwards. So if you're interested in maybe dipping your toe into Magic that way, check that out for some full thoughts on it. And then we also have an interview with Cole Worley of Root, Pax Pamir, and Oath Chronicles of Empire and Exile. Basically, he's made some games you might have heard of. They're pretty good games. Pax Pamir was in fact my favourite game of last year, and I know that Root has some very fond followers, both among the team and further afield. So yes, there's both Cole and his brother Drew, with who he runs Whirly Good Games, chatting about just their process working together and the games they're into or not into, as it turns out. Because wow, he really has some thoughts on how games should be.
Savage.
But yes.
What do you think of pictures?
Sorry?
What did you think of pictures?
I don't know. I didn't have a chance to ask him, but
Probably
I
best.
would imagine probably a negative thing. But yes, so yeah, head over to youtube.com/Dicebreaker for some fantastic videos, or head over to dicebreaker.com for the rest of what we do.
News every day.
And as of
stuff.
Well, yeah, shortly after this podcast goes live, so I think a week from now, our summer range of merchandise will be shipping out. Including some mugs which say "Drink your paint water," which is not medical advice. Please do not follow it, but follow it. I don't know, spiritually,
in your heart.
philosophically. Always drink your paint water. We also have a can koozie, which you can use to play Softs in the Loft. As we full circle.
Oh my god!
If you're going to play Softs in the Loft, please do it in your official Dicebreaker koozie.
Yeah.
We also have
keep
a water
your DP
bottle.
cold.
And oh gosh, keep the dock at 0.
Chilling, yeah.
Didn't go through 5 years of medical school to be room temperature.
We also have a new shirt, we have a new zip hoodie, we have plenty of goodies, so head on over to dicebreaker.myshopify.com if you want to check out some of those. But until next Friday, this has been the Dicebreaker podcast. I've been Matt Jarvis. Thank you for joining me, Johnny Chiodini.
You are more than welcome.
Thank you for joining me, Alex Meehan.
It's been a pleasure.
And until we reconvene again, have a lovely day.
Bye.
Bye.